Emotions start in your body. How do you know when you're feeling bad?
Well, mostly I feel it in my head. My head just hurts me all the time.
I'm nauseous all the time. I feel pins and needles in my arms.
Oh, well, it would definitely be, sort of pain in my shoulders, and it tends to work its way up, and I get a headache.
Everyone has emotions that they experience in their body. So the sensations are individual, but the experience and the bad feeling is universal. When people feel bad, they do things to make themselves feel better. And the things they do aren't always healthy. We all have bad behaviors when we feel bad. The question is, what do you do when you start to feel bad? What's your bad behavior that helps you feel better?
Well, when I feel bad, I find myself drinking and starting early in the morning.
I go into chat rooms I shouldn't.
I tend to eat poorly. I eat lots of junk food.
There is another way. If you're committed to safety and you're not going to hurt yourself or someone else, there's something I want to show you that I use myself and I've taught hundreds of my psychotherapy patients. What you do is when you start to feel really bad in your body, is rather than doing the bad behavior, you actually sit with it and you breathe into it. It's going to be pretty intense and you'll want to run, but you sit with it, breathe into it, and notice it. And what will happen is that your body will want to find a way to get it out. You might want to scream. You might want to punch a pillow. You might want to jump. Your body's trying to figure out a way to get out the emotional pain. How can you get it out?
Well, I cry. I cry so hard sometimes I fall down in the hallway.
I scream into a pillow.
Well, I got a big giant teddy bear called Mr. Cuddles, and I punch him.
Any safe way to get the emotional pain out of your body is good. What happens to a lot of people is that they end up crying. And people think that crying is bad, or if they cry that they're weak, or that it means they're crazy, or they're never going to stop. But none of that's true. Listen, everybody cries, and it's actually your body's way of releasing all of the emotional pain. But if you're going to cry, there's a way to do it. You just need to let it out and get it out. And if you really run with it and just let yourself sob, you'll probably sob for like 2 to 15 minutes and it'll come to a natural ending. There'll be a pause. Actually, there are 2 ways that people get into trouble with crying. The first thing that they do is that when they're sobbing or crying, they tell themselves things like, I can't take this anymore, this is never going to go away, something's wrong with me. And in a way, when you're telling yourself those things, you actually make it worse. You're actually creating more pain. So what we're doing is it's almost like we have a glass full of water that needs to be tipped out, and you're tipping the water out, but you're simultaneously adding more water in with these unhelpful thoughts. What is really good to say to yourself when you're crying is to say, I'm just letting go of this pain. And if you say that, you can kind of pour your cup out and not add more pain to it. The second thing that people do, which gets them into trouble, is that when they're done crying, they tend to want to go to bed. And almost like languishing in the pain. And actually, that's how people get really depressed. So what I would like you to do, and which helps me and has helped other patients, is once you're done crying, you need to then switch gears. You need to get out of the emotion and actually go do something. So the question is, what will you do when you're done letting go of the pain?
Well, I used to dance, so I find that if I put on music in the house and I dance a little bit, it takes me out of it for a while.
I usually go over to my neighbor's house, Louise. She's good to me. I like her.
I think it's going to nature, taking a hike.
It's important to be supportive and encouraging to yourself. What could you say that would be loving and kind?
Well, I tell myself I'm strong and I can get through this.
I'm going to get through this.
That I'm going to feel better soon, that this is not forever.
If you try this approach, I have to tell you that you might not feel better right away. For me, what I notice is that I start to feel a little bit lighter in a few days or a week later. I start to feel a little bit better about it. This is really good for grief. Grief is a messy process and, like emotions, it comes in waves. One minute you're feeling fine and the next minute you feel really bad. Sometimes it's not realistic to go deeper into the emotion and feel the pain. You know, let's be honest, sometimes you can't just go off and sob for 15 minutes because you're not in a situation that allows for it. But you can always press the reset button. Here's what the reset is. If you start to notice yourself feeling bad, instead of going deeper into it, you notice it and then you figure out what you could do that would be different and what you could say to yourself. So the question is, when you feel bad, what could you do and what could you say to yourself that's not your bad behavior? You can imagine your emotional pain like a cup full of water, which eventually you're going to have to pour out. But what the reset plan does is it buys you a little bit of time. It prevents you from doing the bad behavior and enables you some time and space until you're able to go deeper into the pain. So here's what you do when you start to feel bad. First of all, you notice it. Where is it in your body? Where do you find it? Then we don't judge it because we all have it. Then you can breathe deeper into it, kind of noticing how it gets a lot more intense and watching it. And as you're doing that, you're telling yourself that you're just letting go of your pain, because what will happen is your body will want to do something to get the emotion out. You might run, you might scream, you might punch a pillow, you might cry. After that, there'll be a natural ending. And at that point, you sort of dust yourself off and say you did good, and you go do something else, and you tell yourself something loving and kind. For more information, go to our website, www.stir2.com, and feel free to reach out to me. Tell me what's working, what didn't work, so that we can continue to make this better. I'm always interested to hear how you're doing and what's working.